All right, good evening. I'll call to order the Murray City Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, April 17th, 2025. It's 6:33 p.m. Present this evening are Commissioners Jake Pearson, Aaron Hildreth, Ned Hacker, Katie Rogers, Peter Kling, and myself, Michael Richards. Excused is Commissioner Pete Haristo. From staff, we have Zach Smallwood, David Rogers, and Ruth Ruock. Just as a reminder, if you have a cell phone, please silence it. This meeting is being recorded for public record. So thank you for being here tonight. Grateful to have you here and participate in these meetings. Just a few etiquette items. When the time comes to make a comment on an agenda item, we ask that you speak at the microphone for the recording. Please state your name and address for the minutes, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Once the item you are here for is over, you're welcome to leave. We just ask that you do it quietly so we can continue with our remaining items. If you're viewing the meeting online on the live stream, the only way to make a public comment is to email the Planning Commission at murray.utah.gov. Unfortunately, if you post a comment on Facebook or YouTube, it will not be seen. All right, let's jump into it. First of all, though, we're going to change the agenda just a bit as it's listed. We are going to move the legacy materials to right after number 7, so after the Abington subdivision discussion. So we'll start with Panera Bread and then do Murray Hillcrest Pharmacy and then Abington subdivision. So first, approval of minutes. Have the commissioners had an opportunity to review the minutes from Thursday, March 20th, 2025?
Yes.
Yes.
Are there any changes that need to be made?
No.
Okay, I'll ask for a motion.
Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the March 20th, 2025 minutes.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
it.
Go ahead.
Ned can have it.
Okay. No, you can have it. I think you went first. All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Pearson and a second from Commissioner Rogers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, the minutes have been approved. All right, any conflicts of interest tonight?
No.
No.
Awesome, and there are no findings of fact tonight, so we can jump in to the heart of the agenda, which I mentioned would be first Panera Bread, and I think Ruth is going to present on that.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. So here we just have a request for site plan approval for a new Panera Bread restaurant with a drive-through at 5959 South State Street in the CD zone. So here's the location of the site. It's highlighted in blue. The actual building will be closer to State Street. And as shown, the property is zoned CD for commercial development, which is consistent with the proposed use. And here's the site plan and floor plan. The site plan details a 3,500 square foot building with a 12-foot wide drive-through. And the floor plan shows the interior layout of the building, showing a kitchen, a service area, and seating areas. And these elevations detail the architectural design of the building, with featuring a mixture of different materials, and the height of the building would be 20 feet. And the submitted landscaping plan was reviewed and met all landscaping requirements. And the plan includes 2 access points from State Street and proposes 115 parking stalls, which exceeds the required 35. And 35 notices were mailed, and no comments or questions were received. So staff finds that the proposed use is consistent with the goals and objectives of the Murray City General Plan and with conditions that proposed plans meet the requirements of the Murray City Land Use Ordinance. And so staff recommends that the Planning Commission grant site plan approval for the proposed Panera Bread restaurant for the property address 5959 South State Street, subject to these 9 conditions. Happy to take any questions.
And I failed to ask if the applicant is here. I assume they are. Okay, you can stay seated for a minute. I just wanted to make sure you were here. Any questions for staff? Okay, let's have the applicant come then to the podium. And state your name and your address.
Russell Haight, 3032 West Jordan, Utah.
Have you had an opportunity to review the conditions? The 9 conditions here?
Yes. To review, you want me to just review, or what do you mean?
Well, no, I'm just saying, have you had an opportunity to review them, and can you comply with them?
Actually, yeah, we've had received and looked at the standards of Murray Seating.
Perfect.
Yeah.
No, that's great. We just need to have you state that for the
Okay.
public record.
Sorry, yeah,
so-
no, yeah.
No, that's great. Is there any additional information or statements you'd like to make to the commission?
No, no, just I think it's a great commercial product. I think it adds to the city. The drive-through is an option, but it's more of a sit-down restaurant, which gives you a destination in Murray, which I think is helpful and hopefully gives more people traffic in Murray. So I think it's a great product.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I'll open up the meeting for public comment. As I mentioned, if you'd like to make a comment on this item, you may come to the podium. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and we ask you offer new information that hasn't been already discussed. So let's open it up for the public comment. Any emails, Zach? Okay. Seeing no public comment, I'll close the public comment period. Any discussion amongst the commissioners? Oh, this is too easy. Okay, then if there is no discussion amongst the commissioners, I'll ask for a motion.
Chair will make a motion that the Planning Commission grant site plan approval for the proposed Panera Bread restaurant at the property addressed 5959 South State Street, subject to the 9 conditions.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Pearson and a second from Commissioner Hildreth. Any discussion on the motion? All right, let's take a roll call.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hildreth,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
Commissioner Kling,
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
and Chair Richards.
Yes. Congratulations, the motion has passed. Good luck with your project. All right, moving very quickly along, let's have a presentation on Murray Hillcrest Pharmacy. Is the applicant here? Awesome, thank you. Ruth?
Thank you again. So here we have 2 agenda items with different application types, but I'm going to present them together because they are proposed for the same site and they're interconnected. So these items are the Abington subdivision amendment and the Murray Hillcrest Pharmacy, a request to amend and extend the Abington subdivision, and request for site plan approval for a new pharmacy building with a drive-through in the properties between 5317 and 5361 South State Street. And so here's an overall image of the site. This might be an older image, but you can see in the central portion of the site that there's an old seminary building, which is where the new pharmacy building will replace. And here's a zoning map of the property along with the lots in the Abington subdivision that will be amended, which are 6 acres in total. Here's the current plat of the Abington subdivision. You'll see again that the central portion of the site between Lot 2 and Lot 3 is where the seminary building used to be. And here's the amended plat. So some of the proposed changes would be to fully incorporate the old seminary building and create it into Lot 6, and then also extend that lot and then reconfigure the rest of the lots in the subdivision. And for the Murray Hillcrest Pharmacy building, this is a site plan and floor plan. The building will be about 4,000 square feet, and there's going to be a drive-through that circles around the northwest corner of the building with some parking in the south. And the floor plan just shows a basic layout for pharmacy and retail use. And here are building elevations. And for parking and access, there are 2 access points circled in red from 5300 South and from State Street. And the required number of parking stalls is 21, and 26 will be provided. And so staff does not have any issues with access or parking. So for both items, notices were sent to the public and to affected entities, but staff has not received any comments. And so regarding the proposed subdivision amendment, staff finds that the subdivision of land is allowed by Utah State Code. And with conditions, this proposed subdivision amendment will meet the requirements therein. The proposed subdivision amendment will continue to comply with all applicable regulations in the CD Commercial Development Zoning District. And the proposed subdivision amendment complies with the regulations of Title 16 Subdivision Ordinance. And regarding the site plan approval, staff finds that the proposed use is consistent with the goals and objectives of Murray City General Plan, and with conditions the proposed plans meet the requirements of the Murray City Land Use Ordinance. And our staff recommendations are as follows. First, that the Planning Commission approve the proposed subdivision amendment for the Abington subdivision for the properties addressed 5317 to 5361 South State Street. And second, that the Planning Commission grant site plan approval for the proposed new pharmacy building for the property address 5317 South State Street. And I can go back and forth between the conditions if you want to read them a little bit more closely. And happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ruth. Questions for staff? Yes. No questions? Okay, let's have the applicant come to the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening. Can you state your name and your address?
Sure. Ryan Kimball, 1000 South Main Street, Salt Lake City.
Have you had a chance to read the conditions?
Yeah, I have. The only thing I was going to request is on the site, but not site plan, rather, the subdivision, if the condition of vacating the UDOT easement is that necessary. It is our intent. I am trying to do that. It's just if timing doesn't allow, if the existing easement can stay, we'll just deal with that at a later date in that vacation. I'd rather record as is versus wait if UDOT can't meet our timing. And it won't interfere with the development we're doing. It's on a different lot. It's just for context, UDOT required that at that time because the seminary had its own access off of State Street, which will be vacated. And so they needed access in because it wasn't under common ownership, which we will obviously be able to do. So it's just more of a sequencing concern of mine than anything.
Do we want to address that?
Yeah. If you wouldn't mind, would you just move the arrow back a slide?
Sure. Hopefully this
Just so I can see. I think it's, okay. So it's C, right? The obtain UDOT approval and record required documents
Yes, right.
vacating. Okay. So that one is, and that's what I thought would happen. That was issued by Trey. So we typically don't remove them. What we can do is if the planning commission does approve it and there's something that prohibits that from doing, allowing that, we can come back
Okay.
to the commission and amend that condition
Yeah,
out.
I think, Trey's concern was the fact that I actually did remove it from the plat.
Okay.
And so he's saying, that's not the right sequencing.
Okay.
And so leaving it, I don't think should be a problem. But however you want to handle it, I just wanted to address it now.
Yeah, perfect. That's
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah, and I can bring it up with Trey as
Okay,
well. So,
awesome.
yeah.
Other than that, everything's great,
Awesome. So you'll be able to apply with the conditions.
on both applications, yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to add to?
No, just thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a question,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman. On one of the diagrams in our packet, the planting plan, it's the only diagram I saw of this, but it appears that there's a pullout on State Street on the west side of the property. Do you know that, if that's true?
It wouldn't be true. No, I mean, there's no pullout onto State Street. Everything's happening further south or.
Yeah, it's in like park strip.
Interesting. Well, I don't know. To tell you the truth, I didn't look at the landscaping that closely.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what it appears that way. It's off-street. Pardon me? This piece.
Which page is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we could pull it up for everyone. Yeah, you were there. Keep going.
Here, I can, I'll pull it.
There.
Sorry, it's gonna take me a second.
I think it was 56. Or no? It's still loading. I know. No, that's Panera. Sorry.
Try not to go too far in case I,
LP 102.
so I can probably answer that right here. So it's actually turf. So it's grass. So you can see PL 101. I think it says it on yours as well. So it's right here. So PL 101 would reference, so it's just grass. It's not a pullout. What it's showing, so this would be the sidewalk right here, these dashed lines. That's the end of the curb, and then the sidewalk is along here. So that's just grass area. I could see where it would have been thought as
All
a
right, well,
pullout, though.
that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Thank you, Zach.
Sorry, I don't do this enough from this.
All right, let's open it up for a public comment. Is there anyone who wants to make a public comment? Do we have any emails?
No.
Okay, no emails and seeing no other public comment, we'll close the public comment period. Any discussion amongst the commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I just had one question for Mr. Kimball.
Mhm.
Just, Mr. Kimball, when do you anticipate project completion? How long will it take?
End of third quarter
Of this year?
this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question more for staff. With the two different proposals, does it matter which order we do the motions?
Yeah, it doesn't overall matter, but probably this one first, and then we do the site plan after.
Any other questions? Okay. I'll ask for a motion.
Chair, I make a motion to approve the proposed subdivision amendment for the Abington subdivision for the properties addressed at 5317 to 5361 South State Street, subject to the following conditions.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? Okay, let's take a roll call.
Commissioner Kling,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
Commissioner Hildreth,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
and Chair Richards.
Yes. All right, that motion is passed. Let's take a motion on this, I'm sorry?
Oh, somebody listening to you.
Okay, sorry. All right, I'll take a motion on the second recommendation.
Chair, I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission grant site plan approval for the proposed new pharmacy building for the property address 3117 South State Street, subject to the following conditions.
Do I have a second?
Yes, I second.
Any discussion on the motion? All right, let's take a roll call on that one.
Great. Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
Commissioner Kling,
Yes.
Commissioner Hildreth,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
and Chair Richards.
Yes. Congratulations, both have passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right, moving along. Let's do legacy materials now. And David Rogers is going to present on that. Is the applicant here? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioners. So this is a city-initiated application to revoke the conditional use permit for Legacy Materials, which is located at 4300 South Commerce Drive. So here you can see the site. It is a 3.82 acre site. This is an aerial view, and this is the zoning map. It is in our manufacturing general zone, or MG zone, and the surrounding properties are all also MG. So for some background information, on September 21st, 2023, the Planning Commission reviewed a request for a conditional use permit to allow a concrete block production, manufacturing, and storage business on the property addressed 4300 South Commerce Drive. The Planning Commission approved a conditional use permit for this use subject to 16 conditions of approval. Since the conditional use permit was issued, the applicant has failed to comply or made little progress on compliance with several of the conditions which were outlined in the staff report and the approval letter issued for the conditional use permit at that time. So as part of the packet that was sent to both the Planning Commission and the property owner, the business owner, we've put together a timeline of several different events that show what Legacy Materials has been doing and when staff has worked with or attempted to reach out to them in order to bring them into compliance with the conditions that they agreed to when the conditional use permit was first issued. So this is the first slide. I won't go through all of them for the sake of time, but if you guys have any questions about anything on the timeline, I'm happy to talk about that and answer those questions. So here is the second page. This talks about Legacy Materials needing building permits and needing a business license and being found operating without a business license. And here's a third page of that timeline of the city staff reaching out to Legacy Materials to work to get them into compliance. And I will start with, on October 2nd is when the Murray City Police Department issued a citation to them for operating without a business license. In January, the grading and drainage building permit that was applied for in October of 2023 expired due to a lack of activity, which is a resubmittal. So the way building permits work is they submit a building permit and it's routed to all of our departments for review. Our departments review those, provide comments back to the applicant, and the applicant needs to resubmit addressing those comments. So after 120 days of no activity, of no resubmittal, a building permit expires. And so that's what happened in January. And so then in March, Murray City staff initiated the conditional use permit revocation process after the business continued to operate without completion of required conditions or obtaining the proper permits. This revocation application was sent to several city departments for review, and several of them gave us comments indicating that the conditions that were provided back in 2023 were not met. So specifically, several of the unfulfilled conditions, there are 6 conditions that we as staff are specifically calling out as unfulfilled. So the first one is the project shall comply with all applicable building and fire code standards, and no building permits were issued for the grading and drainage improvements or for the structure with a tentative site plan approval. In August of 2024, Legacy Materials submitted a site plan approval for a permanent structure on site, which was tentatively granted based on compliance with the conditions that were issued both at the conditional use permit and as part of that site plan approval. The applicant shall obtain Murray City building permits for any construction. No building permits were issued, again, for the grading and drainage improvements or for the structure that received that tentative site plan approval. The applicant shall provide a utility plan to meet water department requirements, and the water department has indicated when we sent them this revocation that Legacy Materials has not provided adequate improvement to the site in accordance with the Murray City water requirements. 3 more conditions, so 8, 9, and 12. So number 8, the property landscaping shall comply with landscaping standards outlined in Chapter 17.68 of the Murray Land Use Code. The front setback along Commerce Drive shall be modified to include a total of the following: 9 trees, 14 5-gallon shrubs, and 30 1-gallon shrubs, and no landscaping improvements have been completed due to the lack of building permits. The applicant shall obtain a Murray City business license and pay applicable fees prior to operating on the site. A business license was never issued to Legacy Materials due to outstanding or not applied for building permits. Per the timeline provided as part of this presentation, Legacy Materials has operated for months without a business license. And then number 12, the applicant shall meet all requirements of the building, water, and wastewater departments. And the building and water departments have indicated that their requirements have not been met and there should be no active work on the site. Here are those department comments that I mentioned. The water department, the building department, and our business licensing division all provided comments indicating how Legacy Materials has not fulfilled the conditions that were required at the conditional use permit. So in summary, Murray City staff have worked with Legacy Materials on several occasions to assist in obtaining all the approvals needing to meet the conditions of the conditional use permit. This communication included phone calls, emails, and letters to the applicant to inform them of their status of their applications and permits. Staff has compiled a timeline of the application process that Legacy Materials has gone through and the times that Murray City attempted to contact Legacy Materials to bring the business into compliance. This includes several contact attempts by the Business Licensing Division and 2 different citations issued by Murray City Code Enforcement. Because of the length of time without progress towards compliance, staff is concerned that simply modifying the conditions and/or imposing strict deadlines for compliance may not be a sufficient response. So the Planning Commission, this is your decision and determination for what will happen here tonight. And the Murray City Code, section 17.56.090, specifically states what your options are in the case of a conditional use permit revocation. So for the 4 options that you have before you today that you can determine, you may continue the item, which is not making a decision today and bringing the item back to discuss it at a later specified meeting. So you would specify the date that they would need to come back and have this conversation. You could modify conditions. You could allow the conditional use permit to remain, but modify the conditions that the applicant must comply with. You are permitted to take no action, which is the Planning Commission determining to dismiss the complaint. And then there's the revocation. You can revoke the conditional use permit, and if that is the determination that you make, the applicant must vacate the site within 30 days. So for our staff findings, Legacy Materials has been operating their business in violation of their conditional use permit approval. Legacy Materials has been operating their business without a Murray City business license. Staff has reached out on several occasions to inform and work with Legacy Materials to help them come into compliance with little or no response from the business. And Murray City Code Enforcement has issued citations and made Legacy Materials aware that they are operating illegally. So with all of the determination and research done by staff recommends that the Planning Commission revoke the conditional use permit for Legacy Materials located at 4300 South Commerce Drive. If the application is revoked, or if the conditional use permit is revoked, the applicant will be required to discontinue the use within 30 days. No land use permits or business license approvals will be issued for the use if the conditional use permit is revoked. Additionally, if the revocation occurs and the applicant desires to request a future reapplication of the conditional use, staff will then present options and timing for future consideration of the use on the site for the Planning Commission to consider. And I am happy to take any questions.
I just want to make sure, there's a whole timeline there, and I don't want to go through all of that, but September 21st, 2023 was when they got the conditional use permit originally.
That is correct.
And in that, we told them they had to have a business license.
That was one of the conditions of approval, correct.
And then it was a year later, more than a year later, October 2nd, 2024, where a citation was issued. Is that correct?
Correct.
So for an entire year, they didn't get what they needed to do. Then a year later, we told them, you need to get a business license, even issued a citation. And now we're 6 months later than that.
Correct.
Okay.
And they should have had a business license almost from the get-go?
So the way that our approvals work is the conditional use permit is issued, and from there, they would go to either site plan review, which they did for the permanent structure, or a building permit, which was needed for their grading and drainage and anything they would build on the structure. And once a building permit is issued, that is when the business license would be issued as well.
So there's no evidence that they took those steps then?
So they applied for the building permit for grading and drainage, but after several rounds of comments back and forth, the applicant stopped responding. They never submitted another submittal, and so that's why the permit expired.
Other questions?
No.
All right, thank you, David. Would the applicant please come to the podium? And we'll give you an opportunity to respond to the timeline and the discussion here. If you'll just state your name and your address for the record.
Hi, I'm Mike Balls. Address is 9348 South, 500 West in Sandy. Be honest with you, I'm not gonna go back and argue everything. I could give you a number of reasons why it's not complete. The biggest one is we ran out of money, which we're good now, we have the funds now. We were really confused on the application process, but we've hired an engineering firm to work with the building department to get all the submittals to them. We think if you give us 90 days, we can have it done. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
I do. So you said you ran out of money, you have funds available now.
Yeah.
So we just confirmed that the conditional use permit was provided 18 months ago.
Mhm.
So at the time you were already operating the business there without a business license, and you were tapping a well on the property for its water without a permit. What kind of assurances can you give us if this application is or the conditional use permit is extended,
I'm happy to
that you're
come.
going to be able to comply with all of the conditions? And when do you think reasonably that might happen?
Our engineering firm can start submitting things tomorrow. So I'm guessing it'll take us 30 days to get all of our approvals from the building department. But, I mean, I'm positive we can get it done in 90 days. I'm happy to come back in here and stand in front of you again in 90 days.
Is there a representative from the engineering firm here?
No.
Mr. Balls, were you aware throughout the timeline that's been detailed that there were some issues and some conflicts with the city?
Yeah, and we had to get in all the stuff and be built to pass our conditional use before they would give us a building license. Is that what we were told? We were told it had to be all built and done. We did apply for it once, but we didn't have the funds to get it all built at the time.
And there was a few instances where it sounds like there was not responses on your end. Can you speak to that?
I don't know of any issues that were not responded to, like if maybe they went to a junk email. I haven't had any voicemails or anything. I got the letter just earlier this week, in the mail.
I'm just curious from a staff perspective, is it still Wildling?
Yes.
Okay.
What did you mean by that?
The firm.
Engineering firm.
Yeah, the engineering firm that they're working with, which I think one of you brought it up, about the firm that they're working with. It's a pretty reputable firm, so I'm confident.
Has staff had any interactions with us regarding this?
Not since this, not since this has happened.
I don't know, was staff aware of your funding problems? Did you express that to staff?
I did a little bit, maybe not like I should have.
So are you stating that if we extended this for 90 days, that you would then cease operations on the property during that 90 days while you got
Absolutely.
everything going?
Yep.
David, can we get the four options up on the screen?
If you don't mind me asking, the source of the additional funds here, is this like a capital investment? I'm curious about the health of the company. Your business is your business, of course.
It's business that the company's got brought back in.
Okay, so you're like cash flow positive and you're, okay.
Yeah, we were cash flow negative for a year. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
While you're standing here, I'd like to ask the staff to explain a little bit, if this conditional use permit is revoked, what the process is and timeline for the company to reapply?
I'm happy to answer that one, Commissioner Hacker. So our code states that if the conditional use permit is revoked, they must vacate the site within 30 days, and they need to wait a year before they could apply for another conditional use permit for the same site.
Mr. Balls, we like businesses to be able to be successful in Murray City, but it seems that this has been a particularly challenging situation for the city in terms of your compliance. What's the status of the business now?
It's good now. It's in, yeah, and the funds are good now.
Your cash flow positive?
Yes. Yeah. All the bills are paid.
Because from our perspective, this is pretty serious, these non-compliance issues. So we would, I don't know what kind of assurances we can get. I would like you to be successful, but do you have any disagreement with some of the items that were detailed here?
Not in particular.
If we were to, say, continue this for 2 or 4 weeks, would we be allowed to, say, reach out to the engineering firm, basically get assurances, you said they were reputable, be like, will they actually meet these in 90 days, kind of a thing? Again, we want to see businesses flourish.
That's fine.
And so I don't know if that would be an option, just to see if we could reach out to the firm, maybe, I don't know, whatever kind of financial checks we can do with the company. I don't know if that's even in our business, and I apologize, I wasn't here for the first time, I'm new, this is my 3rd month doing this.
You're good.
Yeah, so we could probably do something 4 weeks. 2 weeks, we would have to get notices and stuff out like today. But that could be a possibility, engaging with possibly Wilding. I would recommend, if you are going to go down this route, I would consider his request at the 90 days. That would put us closer to end of summer, and then it would come back to you guys for like a checkup.
So are you saying that, okay, there's 2 parts to this. One is, within the 90 days, could we hear from the engineering company to see that they're on track? And then 2, at the end of the 90 days, so basically, so we're not absent of communication with them for 90 days, and then we're starting this whole thing all over again with them?
So it would be, staff would be communicating. If given that if the commission decides to do that 90 days, right, you would, in essence, continue this item until that date certain. And then we would be working as staff with the business owner.
And the engineering company?
And any engineering company. And after those 90 days, then we come back and say, yes, they've complied, or no, they haven't, or this is where we're at, is kind of.
Is staff comfortable with that option?
I believe we would be comfortable with that option. We made our initial recommendation, but I think we would be able to work within that 90-day period.
Can I ask if straight up, is this possible to be done in 90 days? Okay.
Let's say that we do continue this for 90 days, and in a week from now, Legacy Materials continues to operate on the site. What would happen in that case?
That is a great question.
Yeah, relatedly, just to clarify, are they going to continue their business out of compliance?
They told me no.
He had mentioned
Yes,
that, no, they
We
would.
will be doing it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
We will be doing it somewhere else.
Okay, so you won't be operating on the site?
Yeah, and I'm happy to send,
Okay.
weekly, daily picture updates to somebody or whatever.
And that doesn't compromise your business to
No.
be able to suspend on this particular
No, not for
property?
this timeframe.
Okay.
So, yeah, if they were found to be operating on the site, we would still go through the normal procedures of, code enforcement would go out and say, hey, look,
Okay,
we
so,
gave you a reprieve.
so it has to be understood that, Mr. Balls, you can't operate on the site right now for the next 90 days until all this is cleared up, right?
Mhm.
Is that understood?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, if
Okay.
you decide to.
Can I ask
Yeah.
another question? So let's say they come back in 90 days and they've done everything they need to do, yet they continue to operate on the site. Could we then, in 90 days, revoke the conditional use permit?
Yes, they could. I'm getting a nod from the director that yes, they can.
I mean,
You
because
can,
that's
you can.
what I would feel like we should do, even if they comply with all this other stuff, and then just go and continue to do business where they told us they haven't, I would want to revoke it because they continue to, not comply with what we've asked them to do.
Right, and I will say, if they get through, say like they're able to get everything done in 30 days, that would be miraculous, but they could, right?
Sure.
And they were able to get a business license, then they would be able to operate.
Sure, absolutely.
But, yeah,
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, Mr. Balls, is it clear what you need to do?
Yes.
Okay, there isn't any further confusion
No.
in the details of this?
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for appearing today.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Any
thank you.
any final comments? Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and open it up for a public comment. Is there anyone who wants to come to the podium and make a comment? And just as a reminder, please state your name and your address.
Yeah, hi. My name's Craig Cook, 3645 East Cascade Way, Salt Lake. I'm the president and general counsel for the Humane Society of Utah, which is the neighbor to Legacy. We opposed this in the beginning because of the possible contamination of a cement plant next to our facility with people and animals. Originally, their plan was to put the processing area right next to our fence. And that was very problematic because no matter what they said, that we would have all this different dust and noise and everything. But they actually created sort of a mountain of dirt, and then they put in their processing in between this mountain at the other end, which is completely different when they originally had it, which at least helped us because then we're not right next to them as far as the pollution. It is kind of a strange deal, that through the months and months, we knew they had no building permit, and yet these blocks would suddenly just appear overnight like a ferry had brought them because they apparently were working at night, maybe at 2 or 3 in the morning, they were doing all this processing. So they did build a fence, which was one of the conditions, which was satisfactory to us. And so basically, they have sort of flaunted the law. We've filed complaints against them. The city has gone out to talk to them, and they just keep rolling. So I would say, I'm not against businesses and things, but I think you need to put a very strict regulation on this conditional 90 days. Maybe even require something like showing proof of finances or something of that nature, because, they have consistently violated orders and notices and everything else, and they've always said they're going to do better. So, if they can actually perform, great, but I think they need to, I don't know if you've seen the site, but it's pretty ugly, and it needs to be cleaned up too. It's a real eyesore to the community. So that's all I can say is I hope that if you do this 90-day, shall we say, probation, that you put enough conditions on it so that they can't really wiggle out of it again or claim that they didn't understand it or they didn't have any money or whatever, so that we can eliminate this problem right away and not continue for another year and a half. So that's all I would have.
Thank you. Other comments? All right, looks like we don't have any comments via email, so I'll go ahead and close the public comment. Any discussion amongst the commissioners?
Yes, on this issue that Mr. Cook has raised, does the staff have the resources and the means to verify their financial condition and their ability to actually comply, or are we just sort of postponing the inevitable?
I'm going to look at Chad at this one, but I believe that we cannot require their financials. But I'm going to defer to our director.
Thanks, Chad Wilkinson, Community Development Director. With every application, there's always a chance that an applicant may not have the financing capability to finish an application. We don't know that from the beginning. Sometimes when we enter into a development agreement with a developer where the city is a partner with them, we will require those types of financial assurances. In that case, though, we're a partner with them. If, for example, a redevelopment agency project where we say, we're going to partner with you on this, we've done a request for proposals, all the steps. In that case, we can, as a fiduciary partner, say, yeah, we need you to prove this. But in this case, I think the most we could do is say, we'll give you this probationary period if you're not done, or if you violate the conditions that we've made, which it sounds like tonight one of them is that you absolutely cease and desist operation until you have a business license or until these things are resolved. Those are things we can revoke for, but I think it would be difficult for us to have them prove to us that they can financially.
What about
this.
even meeting with the engineering group to understand that they have?
We'll have lots of
plans
meetings with
and
the
so on.
engineering group. I mean, that's going to be happening very soon. We'll be able to have those kind of questions and answers with them.
Because that's new in this process, relatively speaking.
No.
This engineering company's been used in the past, this is 18 months?
My understanding is they've been involved from the beginning of this. It's just a matter of not getting to the finish line. Yep.
Could they voluntarily provide financial information?
Sure.
So that's an interesting point on the engineering. I thought the engineering was sort of a new partner to them, but they've been part of this process all along.
So what businesses or, new development does, so just like the Panera or the Gibson Pharmacy, they hire out an engineering firm to do all their drawings, right? So that's exactly what they had done. So if you remember back in the timeline, they did submit for a grading and drainage plan. That was provided by Wilding Engineering. That's why I asked if it was Wilding, because I remembered that specific one. So just knowing that they've re-engaged with Wilding, that just means that they will continue working through that.
So do you feel that Wilding would be a credible resource to give staff confidence that they're on track?
Yeah, Wilding's a reputable engineering firm. I don't have any issues with the company itself.
I had a question for the gentleman from the Humane Society, if that's all right. You had mentioned that they had built a fence and that took care of some concerns of yours. Are there any ongoing concerns with that fence existing now that would either be addressed or not addressed with the conditions?
Well, the fence is on our property line. It's only a 6-foot fence. So, as far as the initial concern we had, we did a lot of studying of these kind of plants, and, the plumes go up much higher than 6 feet. And so, to actually insulate us from anything they did, it would have to be a very high, maybe 15-foot fence, something like that. So right now, we just have a regular boundary fence. And, but keeping them on the other end, where on the south end is very beneficial, because right now, we don't hear them. Of course, I think they're working at 2 in the morning, but maybe they're working in the day too. But the further they can be south for their actual plant, as opposed to the storage, the better we are. Because right now, this area that was supposed, if you look at the initial engineering drawings, they had the batch plant right next to us. And now we have, basically just a bunch of the retaining blocks, which is almost a wall in itself, which I guess is another, another advantage. If they store their blocks there, they're almost creating another wall. So that would be our request, if they can keep everything at the south end, any kind of manufacturing, and keep us away with the blocks.
Do we know the kind of dust being kicked up is, I know it was mentioned that the dry cutting of the concrete was not allowed. Do we know if that's occurring?
What's that?
I saw a condition that the dry cutting, do we know if it's concrete dust because of the dry cutting? Do we know if that's occurring?
I don't know.
Maybe you might not.
They don't work when we're there. I mean, we've never actually seen them working. It's like I said, one day you come and there's 2 more stacks of blocks, and we don't hear anything. So I don't know, the concrete cutting, they obviously have to cut them. I don't know, but it's down at the other end, and they've almost created, I don't know if you can describe this for the staff, but we almost have like 2 mountains with a valley where their cement mixers come in and where their batch plant is. So it's, you can't even see it from the street or from the Humane Society. You can see it from the freeway, but not anywhere else. So I don't know what they're doing, basically.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Would it, oh, sorry, go ahead. My follow-up question was for
okay.
actually.
Go ahead, Jake.
I was just going to mention that when we originally did this application, that we went through a very extensive process of learning how all this material was stored, how the product was made. It's like a mold. I mean, I don't want to speak because I'm not an expert, but it's a molded product. It goes into a plan and it comes out as a single mold. They're not having to cut them, as far as I know, or what we were told. And all the product is contained in this plant. So we did review that a lot in the original application, and that's specifically why we put that condition of no concrete cutting, because of the particulate in the air.
I appreciate the context, or thank you. Would it be possible to address the gentleman's concerns and move that to the south, or am I getting kind of out of my league here? I don't know if that's a question for Mike or for the planning commission here.
I mean,
It's definitely in your purview to ask the question, yeah, for sure. What the conditional use permit was approved with was, it came, I believe, with a site plan. And we've also done a site plan review so it would kind of be tied to those. But that doesn't mean that we can't move some of that, or if those can be moved.
Would that be a significant burden for you, Mr. Balls?
Come to the podium, please.
I will say, we've never once worked at nighttime. We work from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Geneva Rock delivers us concrete. They don't work at nighttime either. So just FYI, we're not doing that. But as far as moving the production over that way more, then it's not a huge problem. We like to be good neighbors. We don't try to be bad people. So.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Additional questions? can you put, David, the recommendations up again, and I'll try and summarize where I think we're at. So it sounds like we're leaning towards, here, go ahead.
I'm going to have Mr. Richardson from the Attorney's Office just make a quick statement on stuff too.
I do just want to point out again, with any administrative action you take, which is what this would be, any decision you take has to be supported by substantial evidence in the record. Not necessarily, substantial evidence has to be some sort of expert opinion, or not necessarily comments of an opinion, but some sort of expertise or something that constitute that substantial evidence in the record. So.
Before you leave.
We've got some-
And with that.
No good deed goes
So
unpunished.
how does that apply to this notion of a 90-day probationary? I think that's what you're implying.
No, all I'm pointing out is you have to have some sort of basis for your decision. One of your options is to continue it based on what the code allows, and so that's something that you're authorized to do. I was more referring to any other additional, perhaps restrictions or things you might want to place, so.
Got it.
I mean, my opinion is, I mean, originally I thought we should just revoke it, but I think that I'm okay with the 90-day continue on this. I think I've made it clear that we don't want, anything happening on the site, and if they continue to, violate what we've asked them to do, I think that, my opinion would be we revoke it once that 90 days is up. But if they can comply with all this, it would be great to, have a business continue in Murray. I don't feel like we should add additional conditions at this time. I don't think we properly talked through those, and I think if we do anything, we continue it, or if, someone has another opinion, that's fine as well.
Can we stick with this first option, continue the item, or do we have to amend it? If we were to consider that
Would
as
we
an option?
continue it to a meeting date? Is that what we do, Zach?
Yeah, I've been talking, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
so,
it sounds
So-
like 90 days is around July 16th, and the next meeting, the planning commission meeting would be on the 17th.
so we would, July 17th, we would continue this to the July 17th meeting. That would be the motion, right? To continue it to the July 17th
So that's,
planning commission meeting.
that's point one here, right?
Correct.
Of this
Yes.
option? And in that time, it's expected that they're going to take care of business here.
And then at that meeting, we would then rehab this, this would be back up, and then we could do any of these things again.
But it should be pretty clear.
It should be clear
They're
in
either
my
going to meet
mind.
these conditions or they're not, and they're not going to be operating a business in that time, or not, right? Okay.
I think I'm okay making a motion unless people wanted to continue to discuss it.
Yeah, so I think I agree with you, Jake, our Commissioner Pearson. Anybody feel uncomfortable with that?
Just one other thing. Can Mr. Cook's concerns be reasonably addressed, or is that another matter as far as separating the production from their boundary?
So, okay, I'll let Chad address that.
I think just, as our council has indicated, if you want to do that, there just has to be some type of discussion about, that substantial evidence that you just need to make some type of a finding that is something that you want to do. I don't think that's something you can do. One of the options up there you saw was to add or modify conditions of approval. That's something you can certainly do as a planning commission.
But maybe we need some more
So
information.
This
about
is what I would say about that, though, that the applicant has heard that concern, and he's indicated that's something that they could do. I think we could also, in that time, monitor and see if that happens, and
Okay.
be good to go.
Ned?
Yeah, I feel uncomfortable with it. The issues that we had with the applicant working on the site prior to the conditional use permit being issued. This exhaustive record that the staff has compiled, trying to contact the individual, the business, the applicant. It's pretty comprehensive. And I guess even after hearing from the applicant, I don't feel very convinced that 90 days, they will be able to meet all conditions that we set out for them a year and a half ago.
I guess, Commissioner, what would be the worst-case scenario? They don't, and in 90 days, then we revoke their conditional use permit, right?
Well, a worser case scenario, are we setting a precedent here to opening ourselves up legally for challenges in the future when we're considering revocations? Because we're giving this an extension in the face of incontrovertible evidence, that's a nice word, of what Ned just said, that, hey, this is a pretty clear violation of everything that we've tried to do.
Well, let me ask this question. Do you think it's possible that they could possibly comply with 90 days?
I can't make a
And it-
judgment about that. That's a
But if
staff
we-
judgment. Yeah.
Well, we asked staff, they said they think it's possible.
Okay.
And so I don't know if they can either, but it's possible they can, I don't know. Maybe it's not possible, we don't know that.
Okay.
I mean, does it hurt anything to extend it a little longer?
No, I mean, other than what I just raised, are we setting up a precedent
Yeah, yeah.
for future applicants to basically dismiss the conditional use permits that then opens up a can of worms? And this is maybe a lawyer's question, I don't know.
I don't mean to speak for Mr. Richardson,
Oh, he
but,
left.
no, he's
Oh,
here.
Okay.
He's just really good at hiding in the crowd.
He's moving around.
Yeah, right. No. Each one is kind of taken on a case-by-case basis based on what you guys have heard and make a decision on. So I don't think it sets a precedent because every case is going to be a little different. That's my opinion anyway.
I just want to speak to what Ned said. The communication thing, it makes me worried. I think that's a lot of work for staff. Obviously, they did a lot of stuff to try and communicate. And it makes me hesitant that they're going to do that. That's another 90 days of them pulling teeth to get them to do what they're supposed to be doing. And I want the business to succeed. I'm still.
Fair enough.
I mean, I'll just, if I were to vote for a continuation here, it would be a vote to revoke in 90 days if the conditions weren't met. It's black or white to me.
I agree with that, and I think I see both sides here. I think hopefully you can hear and see that. But I think, personally, I lean on the side of second chances where that's, where we can. And I don't think it does a ton of harm to give it a little bit more time, but I also see the other side.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the difference between 30 days and dissolution of the business and 90 days, giving them another opportunity doesn't make a whole lot of difference in the scheme of things if they can be successful to contribute to Murray.
In worst case, the funding is there, the business takes off, and we've got another great business in Murray.
Which would be awesome.
Well, David, can you pull it up again, so that we can, I think we're close to making nope, okay. Yeah, the options, sorry.
Right, sorry, yes. 2 slides up, not one.
So we just make a motion on the one that we agree on, right? Yeah.
I'll make a motion, Chair, to continue the item, not make a decision today and discuss the item at a later specified date. I think we said July
17th.
17th?
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion from, Commissioner Hildreth and a second from, motion from Commissioner Kling and a second from Commissioner Hildreth. Should we take a roll call vote? Let's do that.
Okay. Commissioner Kling,
Yes.
Commissioner Hildreth,
I don't know if I can make a quick comment before my vote. I had mentioned if in 90 days, it would be black and white to me to revoke. And I do appreciate you working with your neighbor there as well. So that I will vote yes.
Sorry, yeah, so any other discussion on the motions?
I just wanted to make a comment.
And that, I actually should have called for a discussion, so thank you.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker?
I think 90-day period to comply with the conditions provides the benefit of the doubt to the applicant, but I'm going to vote no.
and Chair Richards.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you being here tonight and listening to us and for your willingness to comply. We hope that we see that, so thank you. All right, so moving along to agenda items number 8 and 9, the Murray City Form-Based Code. I think we have, who do we have presenting?
It's me.
Oh, it's you. That's
It's
why
me.
you got up to walk
I
down.
disappeared. Okay. Thank you, commissioners. Yeah, this is a staff request to repeal the Murray City Center District and replace it with the City Center Form-Based Code. The Murray City Center District is Chapter 17.170 and replace it with the City Center Form-Based Code. Also, this would be a zoning map amendment to rezone those properties that are located in the MCCD to the City Center Form-Based Code. The properties that we are discussing are 99% in what was the MCCD zone. There are three properties that are located in the CD zone, which is this one here. That's kind of hard to see. It's this one up here that was requested by the property owner. And then also these two properties that are immediately south of the Mini of Murray dealership. They were already in the general plan as future land use to go into the city center district. So we found that as a natural point to kind of cap that off instead of leave that in the CD, which is the commercial development zone, which is what typically goes along State Street. So to give you a little bit of history, the general plan, the 2017 general plan initially called for, is laid out with 5 initiatives, which are the 5 kind of big topics that the general plan is seeking to kind of implement. One of those is the city center district. And there's a whole list of items for implementing and making the city center a more vibrant community and area. And one of the best practices for implementation, as you can see here on your right, is a form-based code. So that was one of the driving factors in doing this. The second is the downtown strategic plan that was adopted. It was reviewed here at the Planning Commission last year and then was also adopted by the City Council in May of last year, which also the first recommendation there was to implement a form-based code in the city center zoning district. So to kind of orient us a little bit better, this is a map of everything within the red polygon is a abstraction is where we are speaking, all the properties that are located. The two kind of markers, the first one kind of on the top left of your screen is where we're sitting here at City Hall. The second one further south is the old City Hall that doesn't look like that anymore. So that's just help orient kind of the area we're looking at.
Zach, south of the old City Hall, is that the point or not?
No, it is not the point. No,
Okay.
It stops at the park. So this red This red line here is technically Little Cottonwood Creek.
What's
So-
it, what are those buildings included in there?
This is like a little key bank, I believe.
Oh, and then that's the medical building.
Yeah, and then
behind it.
there's the medical building
Okay.
right here, and then these are the pickleball courts in the park. Okay, so I know that the planning commission has heard this a number of times, but I'm gonna go through each chapter. So not in depth, but this kind of gives you an idea of each chapter.
Zach, we talked about this.
I know, right? So I'm not going to go in depth, but, so it's laid out with 11 chapters. So I'm going to go through the first 5 pretty quickly. So the first one is form districts. So every property will be within the city center form district, the city center form-based code will have a form district. So we have 5 of those. We have the Civic Center district, which is here in the purple, lavender color. And then we have the Boulevard District, which is everything that fronts on State Street except for this property, but everything that fronts on State Street. And then we have the Neighborhood Corridor District, which is things along 4800 South on that northern side. And then here on Transit Neighborhood is this kind of bluish color. And then lastly is the Residential Transition Form District, which is here along Center Street. So just going back here, on this slide, it dictates, it shows the heights that are allowed in this area. From the MCCD, this is actually lowering the height significantly. I believe everything west of State Street was allowed to go up to 10 stories. This is actually reducing that quite a bit. So the Civic Center District is between a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 6 stories. The Boulevard District is a minimum of 2, a maximum of 3. However, they can, a property owner could go up to 5 if it's stepped back from the street there. Within the Neighborhood Corridor District, minimum height of 2 and a maximum of 3. Transit Neighborhood, this is the highest district, but also the one that we had come to the conclusion that it's also the closest to the transit station and also near the hospital. So that allows for a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 8 stories. Then residential transition, this is supposed to be more a residential focus area as it is immediately adjacent to the single-family neighborhood just on the other side of Center and further east. This is a minimum of 2 stories and a maximum of 3. Any questions on form districts so far?
Can I just ask a quick question? I may have asked this originally, but.
Sure.
Since these are all, can a property owner request a change to their district? And is
Yes,
that handled like a zone change?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, perfect. Okay, next are uses. So in a form-based code, use is is a lot less focus is placed on it, where the interaction between the buildings is more important in a form-based code to create more of a unique district. So though use is important, it's not the most important in here. This is also a change to the way that Murray has done uses in the past. Previously, we use, as you guys would know, a standard land use code that has thousands of little codes, and there's one that's like whaling in there. So I don't know why it's in there, but cool. So this is kind of generalizing it a little bit more, so that we don't have to look at every single use that's possible. Any questions on use? Okay, so street types. So overall, every street will have it has a label of a type, and each type has a standard next to it. So along State Street, we're have a certain sidewalk width, a certain number of trees per feet, plantings, things like that. And then, we have the Avenue District, which is, or street type, which is Vine Street, which also has that. One thing that is not in here is the vehicular realm. That is more governed by our engineering department. They kind of manage lane widths and things like that. So here we really talk about sidewalks and that pedestrian experience. Any questions on street types? Okay. So I'm going to go over these really quickly. There are, I believe, 5 building types. This is this is a general building type and will be the most common building type in all of the form-based code. And you can see here on the left, with a form-based code, it has a lot of regulation, but it's easier to read than in a current zoning ordinance where it's very text heavy. This is very graphic and table heavy, so you can actually see within the CC, BD, NC, TN, and RT zones. You just kind of follow that color down and you get your regulation, your standards. Developers like this because it just calls out everything that they need to do to get something across the finish line. This is the exact same thing for all 5 building types. So we have a limited bay building. So these are if they have garage door type things. These are only allowed in the NC, the neighborhood corridor district. Row buildings, so you can think of these like townhomes or, townhomes largely. You can have office and retail in those as well. And then we have a yard building. This is going to be almost exclusively in the residential transition neighborhood or form district. And then lastly, civic. We don't really need, not many people are going to do that except the people here. So now I'll go through chapter 6 through, I should ask, do you have any questions on building types? Okay. So I'll go through the remaining chapters, which is 6 through 11, which is open space, landscaping, parking, signage, and then I lumped in administration and glossary together. So open space, every type of open space is called out. So for example, this pocket park, you can see that there's a minimum area and a maximum area. This is so that you don't get people that are trying to build a pocket park that's like the size of that dais, right? That's not going to be big enough for anything. So we want at least a minimum and a maximum area, because if you get over a quarter acre, then you're getting into something a lot larger. And then also, what I think would be most helpful is to kind of explain the BTZ, which is the build to zone. So within that build to zone, we have an open space allowance. So you can have a minimum and a maximum depth, and you can have, structures in that area like a monument, sculpture, water feature for Mr. Richards, or Chair Richards there, stoops, porches, things like that. Which would allow for that variation in building design as well, which is separate than the sidewalk and the park strip. So the sidewalk and park strip, you have your park strip, which is really used as kind of like a furnishing zone. So you would have, trees or garbage cans, bike racks, benches, things like that. Then you have your sidewalk, which is really your travel zone, and then your build to zone, which is more your you'd have outdoor dining here, or, some additional planters, just some to open that character up a little bit. We also do have 2 others. I wasn't going to go into the requirements for those, but we do have parks and a park and town square open space type in both of these. Landscaping section is next. Actually, do you have questions on open space? Okay. Landscaping section is next. So within the landscaping chapter, it calls, so you can kind of see along the tree or along each street here is a different color. This dictates what type of street tree should be placed on this street. And then they have the name here. We did find 4 examples of them pretty quickly, and then I created a border around them to show you kind of which one is which. So this is the common hackberry. This is the green vase alcova. This one is the eastern redbud, and this one is the honey locust, which would be along State Street. That State Street already has honey locust right here along between State and 48th, so it wouldn't be a big change there. Within also the landscape area, it does talk about any buffering requirements along properties. So again, has a lot of graphics and tables to help people understand the code a lot more.
Zach, can I ask you a quick question about the trees?
Sure.
Are they water friendly?
Yes. Yeah, they're specifically chosen for Utah landscapes. And this has also been run by the Murray City's arborists, and they've all signed off on the trees as well. They're also really good street trees. They work well in urban environments. So, okay, parking. Here, this is a table of parking. It actually has come up a little bit from the MCCD, but largely stays about the same. I'm happy to answer any questions, but the parking has been increased a little bit on certain uses, especially along like the general retail and like bars and restaurants, things like that. Any questions on parking? No, that's usually a big one. Okay, signage. We have a better graphic of this, but it's in another version of the draft, so I couldn't find it. But we'll get a better graphic for next time, but it gets the point across. So in the signage section, signage, you wouldn't believe how many types of signs there are in the world, and how to regulate each type of sign is a daunting task. I assign all the signage building permits to David, and he gets to figure that out. Exactly the same. So each signage type has an outline of exactly how we calculate the sign area, the height of the sign location, and this works for every sign type. So this one, for example, is just the wall sign, but we have one for monuments, projecting, awnings, things of that nature. So administration and glossary is pretty much as it is self-explanatory. It really dictates how to implement the form-based code. It also deals with non-conformities. That's usually one of the big things that the public is concerned about, is how is it going to affect their property with this zone change. And we can say confidently right now it doesn't do anything. They're still allowed, by the adoption of this code, that they're still allowed to continue operating just as they would. Really what happens is that there's a threshold of coming into compliance with that if they go to do changes like exterior changes with the building. There are also carve-outs for historic structures, that if they want to do additions, they don't have to bring the historic building into compliance with the code. They're allowed to. So my prime example for that is the chapel right out here was recently purchased by the owners of the Tea Rose Diner. And I wanted to make sure that, they're a non-conforming use. I don't want them to have to completely demo the building or make it come into conformity in order to operate a new business there. So it's just the new section, just the addition that they do would have to come into conformity, but the existing chapel would be allowed to stay. And then glossary, obviously pretty self-explanatory, just defines all the terms. This is a 122-page document, which I think our zoning ordinance was maybe 500 pages total. So this significantly increases that, but I think it's going to result in a much better downtown. A lot of citizen comments that we would hear from people is that they were concerned with the look and feel of the downtown. And so we've worked really hard to create this to help make it a more cozy downtown, I think is a good word. So we sent 329 public notices to the areas being rezoned, a 500-foot radius around that, and then also to affected entities, which are usually other governments, state government, DIG companies, things like that, school district. And then it was also posted on the city and state's public notice website. 2 comments were received and attached in your staff report for you guys to review. I have not heard anything since. So our findings is that the proposed text amendments further the objectives of the 2017 general plan to provide a variety of housing types and revitalize critical areas of the city. It also is in harmony with Objective 11 of the land use and urban design element to stimulate reinvestment in deteriorating areas of the city to support growth and enhance the image of the community. And the proposed amendments will allow and support context-sensitive quality mixed-use development in appropriate areas. So with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the requested text amendment to the land use ordinance and the zone map amendments for those properties as described in the form-based code document. I will also caveat that this is just one public hearing. There will be another at the either way. If you either forward a recommendation of approval or recommendation of denial, this will go to the City Council for a public hearing as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I've got a whole code here, so I can flip through every page.
I have a little off question. So the Murray City Center Committee overlooked the MCCD. Will that group still stay in existence as perhaps form-based code committee?
That's to be determined. So going forward, we've had discussions. I think in the pre-meeting, it was just briefly discussed that the numbering is going to change in the code, right? Through further discussions with the attorney's office, we're actually going to have to come through with another text amendment, kind of like an omnibus text amendment that goes through the entire zoning ordinance and if this gets approved, remove the MCCD from everything. And that's where we will determine, because there will have to be an architectural review committee set up, and so something will be replaced. I'm not sure exactly how that'll work.
Zach, the notices that were sent out, was that recently sent out?
Yes, yep, those are sent out about 2 weeks in advance.
So my understanding, that's in addition to various public meetings as the process of looking at form-based code was done over the last couple of years.
That's
right?
correct.
Where we had people coming and putting stickers and getting some idea for
Yep.
that codification.
So I can say that we had the visioning processes, which were done during the
2 years ago.
the strategic plan,
Yeah.
right, and the general plan, and a few other things. And then we did have 3 city council meetings at committee of the whole in the drafting of this. And then we had 3 planning commission meetings, discussion items, and we did have 1 public open house where we talked about it as well. So there's been at least 7 opportunities.
What was the public feedback generally in that process?
A lot of people seem to be pretty open to it because it does regulate more of the look and feel as opposed to the, it regulates more the look and feel. Where some people were unhappy with the look of certain buildings that have been constructed in the downtown, this should hopefully curb some of that.
And just one clarifying on the geography, in the map, is Lost Creek within the MCCD?
It is.
Okay, so they would be going
They are
forward
being
having
rezoned.
to adhere to this as well.
Yeah, we are, they're included in the rezone, so they are right here.
Okay.
And they would be in the, it's the blue one. I can't remember which one it is. Transit neighborhood, there we go. I heard David whisper it. So yeah, it would be in the transit neighborhood district.
And as we talked about in the pre-meeting, developers would be able to have access to this as as a
Oh, of course.
guideline for how they make their proposals. And
Of
it's pretty
course.
particular. I mean, the full document's even more detailed than your summary of it.
Yeah, and I think what's really helpful is that, I have our consultant here too, if you have specific questions. But what we've also drafted is a worksheet that's attached to this as well that will allow, we as staff will meet with any potential redevelopment person that wants to build something here and kind of go through each item and have them fill that out. We also, the consultant has drafted I apologize, the word just left me, kind of like a prototype, that's what it was. So we used an actual property in Murray's downtown. We used one, the property owner wouldn't care that we did it. It's Wells Fargo. They're not going to care that we played on their property. Just drew some pictures. That showcases kind of how all of those things work. That tests the form-based code to a degree. Also, who's been really great to work with is Rockworth, who has signed their development agreement with the city. Because we have been working hand in hand with them, saying, hey, we're doing this form-based code, and we want you to be in compliance with it when it's adopted and you're done. So they've actually been giving us feedback as we've been going forward as well, which has been very helpful in testing some of those things.
Has form-based code been applied for some time? And do we have any Utah examples of it?
Yes, we have a lot of examples of it. Specifically, our director, Chad Wilkinson over here, he worked in one in Bountiful. He was part of that. Midvale's Main Street, which is really thriving, starting to thrive at this point, is under a form-based code. There are a handful in Salt Lake City proper.
Mill Creek?
I think, yes, Mill Creek's their downtown is under a form-based code.
Was Holiday under that too, or not?
I think they've got form-based code light. It's not quite there, but it's close.
Good work, thank you.
Any other questions I can answer?
And if I recall from, one of our last meetings, these changes, or not changes, but like I don't know if enforcement's the right word, that happens when like the property changes hand, right? So anyone there's kind of grandfathered into it until the property changes hand, or are they going to kind of immediately need to comply?
Kind of all the above. So if, say like, I'll take the example of, I don't know, Wingers, for example. So let's say Wingers closes, right, and a new restaurant opens. They're allowed to continue to operate as a restaurant. That's the way nonconformities work. It's if they change from Wingers to a hotel, right? So if it drastically changes, so that's really what kicks things over. But yeah, if another hotel or another restaurant comes forward, they'd be allowed to operate just normal, like Ice House too. If they were to move, another bar and grill would be able to go into that space.
Zach, it's supposed to be the same kind of business?
Same type of business,
It's
yeah.
not
So
a matter
restaurant
of a
for
building
restaurant.
turning to something else, the same building turning to something else. It has to be the same, it has to be a
Same
restaurant?
business type, yeah. So if, that's another great point. So if it were to go from Wingers to an office, right? I mean, if they're not doing any construction and if it's a permitted use, they wouldn't have to do anything to the building per se. But if they're going to be making changes to the building, that's when they would have to come into it. Cool.
Okay,
Well, I'll go sit down.
thank you. All right, so we'll open it up for a public comment. If anybody would like to make a public comment, please come to the podium.
for the meeting tonight?
Do you know what it would be called? Oh, this one here.
Yeah, that one, and then number 1.
Okay.
Can you please state your name and your address?
I will in a minute. I just wanted him to get the computer set up so that I didn't break the thing. I didn't want to have to pay Murray City for it. I pay enough in taxes as it is.
Thank you.
So, anyway, my name is Delin Barney. I've lived in Murray City for over 60 years at the same location. I also own the property that's shown on that map that shows it's 4902. The zone that it's in is TN. I'll read from my notes. I do not want to be surrounded by 8-story buildings, which is what the TN has. If anything, the NC district could be extended further to the south, at least to 4th Avenue. I wouldn't necessarily want to see the Civic Center district extended to the west, but I've seen a lot of changes in Murray, and I can see pluses and minuses with what's going on here, but I have no immediate intentions of moving and living someplace else besides where I am now. That also said, I tend to be, I'm going to be maybe not necessarily a resident, but a permanent fixture of Murray for a long time because I've got a grave site in the Murray City Cemetery. So after I leave where I'm at now, I may wind up there. That's just a side joke. But I do
It's a good one. Thank you.
So anyway, as far as
We appreciate your eternal commitment.
you're certainly welcome.
Oh, even better.
That was, my parents, when they moved here, I didn't know that I was going to be here this long. During that time, I also worked at Hill Air Force Base for 36 years, so I commuted back and forth. So it was a definite dedication to stay here and buy the home after my mother passed away. I need to go on to the next slide.
Is there another?
Number 2. The neighborhood street requirements for Box Elder is what this is designated as, is for being 30 feet, as calls for a 6-foot parking strip on either side. Right now, there's some of the Box Elder Street from 48 South to Vine Street that is currently dedicated as non-parking, like in front of the fire department. And as the road goes down over the hill to Vine Street, it's no parking there because it's when the basketball place went in, they were parked on both sides, and it only allowed for one lane of traffic with the parking on both sides of it. That said, the street requirements, if you could, excuse me, bring up number 3.
Number
3. There it goes.
Computer sometimes does not want to cooperate. It's having a moment, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's having a problem.
Okay.
Sorry.
Might need to close the program
Anyway,
down.
that,
Oh, yeah, sorry, if you want to just, I'll try to get it
okay.
open.
Anyway, the point I was going to make with this is what it talks about future streets being 30 feet wide. Box Elder Street in front of my house where I live is 30 feet with 5 feet of sidewalk and edging. In the future street, it talks about one lane of traffic, one lane of parking, and for traffic flow, and providing
parking on both sides in the way it's set up now in this particular code. If people parked on both sides, the emergency vehicles, let alone any other traffic, could not go down that street. So I have concerns about the safety requirements as far as that. And the next slide I was going to show you, which I don't know if it'll bring up, it may or may not. Anyway, that's the one that was just up there. But anyway, could you bring up one more for me?
Oh, 3 came up.
Okay, okay. Okay, now number 5. No, back to number 5. Anyway. Number 1. Number 1.
Oh, you want to go back to number 1?
Yeah. Because the one I thought was going to be up there isn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, in this particular code, it talks about the 4th Avenue and 5th Avenue being extended and looping around behind the property where I live right now. As I understand it, the deed that was on the property to the south of me had a right-of-way of 30 feet going from Box Elder Street behind, along the south of that property, and then along the west of the property. So there doesn't seem to really be a need to have a 4th Avenue extended as a kind of matter of interest. 4th Avenue and 5th Avenue was 5th Avenue was vacated by Murray City in 1987. 4th Avenue was vacated by Murray City some years before that, so that another business could go in. I think it was Heritage Corporation or a cannery at the time. And now to re-extend those streets is kind of redundant things of something from the past. I'm concerned about the additional traffic on Box Elder Street with the width of the street and the parking. And then going back to my original statement, I don't want to be surrounded by very tall buildings. And it seems with the elevation changes as it leaves my house, as it goes down towards Vine Street, there's a drop of 12 to 18 feet. And the elevation of the buildings would be semi-erratic between the neighborhood corridor, the civic center corridor, the TN area. It seemed like the TN area would be more applicable to frontage buildings fronting the Vine Street and closer to where the apartment complex is than where I'm living right now. So I do appreciate your time, and thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, may I ask you, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. May I ask you a question?
Oh, certainly. I'm usually the city council meetings where I'm not asked questions.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, I just wanted to ask you, what kind of home are you in now?
I am in a single residence family.
Single-family home detached?
Yeah, no, it's a single family with a detached garage.
Okay, okay. And are there other houses around you?
Yes, to the north of me is a single family, but it's also got a very large building towards the back of it. Directly across from where I live is another single-family residence, and to the north of them is a rehab facility that is a 3-story building. So there again, putting in an 8-story building right where I'm at, would go from a 3-story up to an 8-story, which would be quite a change.
I'm trying to visualize where, the rehab center, that was a newer building, like 10 years ago?
That was they put it in as it was a rehab facility, then the University of Utah bought it, and they're doing some type of, I don't know what exactly they do in it as far as helping people that have some type of need. I went to their open house one day, but anymore, they do their thing, I live there, I do my thing, and life goes on.
Oh, thank you, sir.
And then the building, the 4th Avenue, if it was to be extended through, right now there is a building that people play basketball, and there's a youth group, not a youth group, but a business that operates a basketball leagues, I guess, is in that particular building.
How long have you lived there?
In the house I'm in now, my dad built it in 1963. We moved away to Washington State for a couple of years and came back in 1965. I joined the Marine Corps in 71 to 75, and then in 1986, I went to work at Hill Air Force Base, and so I've been there on and off permanently since 63 and then 65, for a very long time.
Well,
And when I
thank you.
first moved there, there was quite a few more it was more of a residential area than what it is now. And as a matter of fact, when my family first lived in this area, before we had that house built, this parking lot out here is where my family had we rented a home, and I went to Arlington Elementary for, I think it was a year or two, I'm not sure which, but that was more years ago than I would like to remember. But it was an interesting time. So I've been a Murray resident for quite a few years.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate all of that background. Is there any other public comment? And also, yeah, come on up. And just a reminder, normally we only do like 3 minutes for public comment. It's okay, but just a reminder to keep your comments to 3 minutes.
I'm just waiting for him to kick that out so I don't erase everything or mess his computer up. Thank you.
Excuse me, can you get to that where you have the new one? Where you pointed out my property, that you were adding it into the...
And if you'll state your name and your address.
My name's Diane Powers, and I own the property at 4777 South State Street. And my question is, or my comment, when he gets the map up, you had the cursor, it's of the boulevard. The map, yeah, yeah. You pointed the court cursor up at it's next to the Mini Cooper, and you pointed it out. Did you keep that in there because it is a historical building and for historical purposes? Did you keep that my property in because it is a historical property?
I don't know.
Okay, I was just asking the question.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll address the question after all the public comments.
Okay, I'm just asking, so thank you.
Oh, so that was it.
I've had the building for 10 years, and I've tried to keep it historical, and I've done a lot of renovations to keep the integrity of the building for the sake of the historical purposes that it has.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
We'll address it after the rest of the public comments. Any additional comments?
Hi, I don't think any of you know me. Maybe you do. Yeah, one person. My name is Michael Todd. Between, I think, the Wrights, Bill and Susan, and I, we own the majority of downtown.
And can you state your address as well?
Yeah, I own, it's 4861 South State Street, which is Desert Star Playhouse, and all of the associated buildings with that. So we own the majority of the east side of State Street, and I'm not sure now what the Wrights have sold or haven't sold, but they own the majority of the west side, or did. And I didn't come, well, I don't know, I'm pretty upset. We've been in Murray now we're in the 37th year of owning and operating a business in Murray. And I have a lot longer history in Murray than that, which some folks are aware of back in our tax exempt bond days. Our firm represented Murray City. But I couldn't possibly get through all my notes here that I've tried to scribble down in this meeting in 3 minutes. But I feel very violated and blindsided by the city right now. I didn't come to this meeting expecting to have these kinds of problems. When I got this in the mail a few days ago, it doesn't have this on it. It has a line around it, but it doesn't have RT and BD and CC and any of that stuff. And I was on the committee. Well, let me try to follow my notes so I don't wander. I was once a member of the committee, along with Susan Wright, when the committee that started dealing with all this, and I don't even know how long ago it was a long time ago. But when I disagreed with the fact that let me take a half step back. First of all, I don't have a problem with form-based code. I've been involved in form-based code for years. I'm a proponent of it fundamentally. So I'm not here to oppose form-based code, but I'm here to oppose that. When I disagreed with the direction this was headed, because they were cutting right through the middle of my property with a road or / alley, I was no longer invited to the meetings. And I don't want to put words in Susan's mouth, but neither of us were invited to the meetings after that. When I complained to the mayor about not being invited to the meetings anymore, I was very politely and appropriately told, no problem, we will just exclude your side of the street and you won't be involved in this. I said, great, no problem. So when I got this in the mail and saw that we were included, I believed that it wouldn't be a problem. Now I'm looking at it, my property's in two different entire districts. Half of it's RT, the other half's BD. That's not gonna work. I really apologize for being and sounding upset. I've been in Murray way too long to be upset. There's nobody that cares more about this area than the owners of it. That's me. Let me try to get through this. I'm sorry for taking more than 3 minutes.
If you could wrap it up in a minute.
Let's see. First, this is my first notice of this meeting, not 7th or whatever was discussed. I mean, I've been friends with these guys for a long time. I don't like being in this position and all of a sudden being at odds. We've been friends for years, but this isn't right, what's happening here. The changes to the zoning changes to our property have been so frequent to be difficult to even count. It's changed from high-rise to now 2-story, and if I understand it correctly, we're now taking 3-story buildings that are existing and we're lowering them to 2-story on the east side or on the west side of our street. This is the downtown district. We shouldn't be. This isn't the Garden District. This is the downtown district of Murray. Anyway, that's a whole different issue. But the city has changed my property zoning so many times since I've owned it. I don't even know to count how many it's been. And now it's happening again. And I don't appreciate being excluded from it. And the Wrights and I have talked that I can't put words in their mouth, but, you know, we own it. Don't you think we ought to be part of it? Now, I realize this is a much larger area, but we own most of that block. 48th to Vine, and we're not even being involved in the process. We've been, excluded from it. And it's not because we haven't complained about that. We've complained many times about the city, acting like it owns our property. I've said this same thing in city council meetings. Check with the mayor. He laughed and laughed because he understood the reality of it. If the city wants to mess with our property, no problem. Just buy it.
Let's cut it off there. Thank you.
Okay.
I think we got it. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Susan Wright. I'm the Wrights that he keeps pointing to, so I thought I'd better get up and say who I am.
Can you state your address, please?
We still own some big buildings and 3 parking lots right here on Fifth Avenue and Poplar, from State to Poplar. And we're very concerned about this. My concern is with all these zoning changes that, we're not going to be around forever, but what am I leaving my kids? I plan on staying there. We plan on operating the businesses that are there, but what are they going to get when they get this? We don't know what it'll be zoned for right now. It's zoned for anything. And when you buy something like 45 years before, and you pretty much thinking anything can go, and then all of a sudden all these limits are put on them, it's pretty discouraging. And also, this might be a little off track, but I'm going to say it anyway. Because we own 3 parking lots is because Murray City always made us buy parking. When we had these big buildings, we had to have parking. Where is the Murray Theaters parking? How come they don't have to have parking, but we all had to? That's really a pet peeve of mine. So anyway, I'm not really happy with this either. I wished I knew more about this. I haven't seen this either. I'm not aware of all these changes to our property. So anyway, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Any emails, Zach? If there aren't any additional public comments and we don't have any emails, I'll bring it back to the commissioners for discussion. Yeah, and definitely would like Zach to address some of the comments.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, just taking some of this. Specifically, I'll start with Mr. Barney's comments. So the previous code, the MCCD zoning code that currently exists, would actually require 4 stories next to him and would allow up to 10 stories. So as of today, somebody could come and apply for a 10-story building right next to his house. Yes, 8's not much lower, but it is a lower height. We still don't anticipate, we know who owns the property, and we've been in constant contact with those people. And they're not ready to pull the trigger on any development yet. We did, at the public open house for this, for the form-based code, where these form districts were being outlined and discussed with heights and things like that, we specifically sent in a letter to each property owner so that they were aware of it. I believe the Wrights did come at that point. And we did have some other participation at that meeting. The 4777 South State, so I received a call from Lori Edmonds. She's the cultural arts manager or something over at Parks and Rec. She, I believe, was speaking to the owner, the lady behind us. I'm sorry, I didn't catch her name. And I think there was some miscommunication about, so currently there is a national historic district that's part of like the National Register of Historic Places. There is a national district placed on the downtown of Murray that allows for people to apply for tax credits and things like that to reinvest in their property. This does not affect that. This is purely land use regulation. This doesn't negate anybody from still applying for those credits. This is only changing her from the CD zone to the form-based code, which would actually, if she is interested in doing more traditional building type look and feel, that would fit in the form-based code as well. The rest of the comments, I kind of addressed it. We invited property owners to come to the form-based code meetings. And I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
So regarding Mr. Barney's comments in his particular neighborhood, I'm still trying to, I think I have a sense visually of where he is. Can you point that out?
Yep. Right here.
Right, yeah. So prior to even the form-based codes discussion, I think you said the previous code already allowed for some transit-oriented higher buildings around
A minimum of
neighborhood.
4.
Pardon me?
A minimum of 4 stories and and up to 10.
And how long had that been in place?
2011.
2011. But prior to that, was there a higher density zoning
I
for that
believe-
area too?
I don't recall what the zoning was off the top of my head. Do you? Okay. It was either in the manufacturing zone or in the commercial development zone, which didn't have, it didn't have a height restriction. It has a height restriction in relation to its distance to a single-family zone, which that would have been pretty far.
And then with respect to Mr. Todd and Mrs. Wright's comments, the form-based code only applies to future projects. It's not anything to do with current projects.
Correct.
And then, what kind of changes that affect them from where they are now? In terms
As they
of their
currently
expectations?
operate, it doesn't affect them at all.
Or
So
what they may have understood about the previous zoning.
I'm sorry.
What's changed from the previous zoning that perhaps needs some clarification? That what, I guess, what imposition is being placed on them now as a result of this change from what was there previously?
So the form-based code is a different type of zoning ordinance. The Wrights and Mr. Todd have gone through a significant amount of zoning changes through the MCCD. When it was adopted in 2011, it was intact for a couple of years, and then every year that I have been here, we've come with a text change to the MCCD with varying degrees of impact. So in 2021 was a large impact. It was a big text amendment. But almost every year I've been here, we've changed something in that code. And that's part of the reason for this form-based code, is to wipe that slate clean and make something cleaner that the community has expressed that they want. And through the steering committee that had a member of the planning commission, had 2 city council members involved, staff and our consultant, that's where we landed on these things.
And so thus far, the only project that would be adhering, if this is adopted, to the form-based code would be the Block 1,
Correct.
right? That's the only one. on
Yeah,
the
I mean, and
potential
that still
budget.
hasn't even been, it hasn't even been reviewed yet because this hasn't been adopted, so.
Thank you.
Door shut. It's the ghost.
Telling us to wrap this up, I think.
Any other questions I can answer?
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, flying through these.
So any additional discussion, or is there a motion?
I just would like to mention that I know a lot of people put a lot of work into this. There were lots of meetings and lots of input. I gave a lot of input myself. I think there were a lot of people that listened to that input. We listened to the citizens. I think this is a good step forward. I understand the frustration of being a property owner and, being told what you can do with your own property. I get that frustration. I did check the notification, and it goes right to this document that has all these maps and charts and everything. So I believe that was notified properly. But I understand the frustration. I do think this is a good step forward, though. On that, I'll make a motion that we forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for the requested text amendment to the land use ordinance and the zone map amendments for those properties as described in the form-based code.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Pearson and a second from Commissioner Rogers. Any discussion on the motion?
I'll make comment. So I've watched the zoning and change in Murray for the time I've been on planning commissioner and for the 15 years that I've lived in Murray prior to that. So a total of 30 years. And I too have seen a lot of changes, State Street and a lot of the area we've been looking at. I know this group, and as said earlier, has taken a pretty significant interest in developing this for the last 2 years. This committee in particular, working on committees, and I've seen form-based code in a number of cities across the region in the last decade, and I feel like it's helped businesses, property owners, maybe not all, but in general, and it's helped the cities that those form-based codes were developed in. So I think it's a good step to the future.
Thank you. Anything else? I think I'd make one last comment. So I was involved in the committee for this form-based code, and when I started that committee, I had no clue what it even was. And I think that often happens when you don't fully understand something, you think you're going to be restricted. And as I got into it and understood it more, I saw the value of what it is and what it can be. I also have been in Murray for 45, well, I was born in Murray. I moved around a bit, but very strong ties to Murray and don't want to see, or at least I feel an obligation to protect something that I'm attached to. Not maybe as long as some others, but I can certainly sympathize with some of the sentiments of change. But sometimes there has to be a compromise in the change. So I support this, even though I know that there's parts of it that are frustrating. So let's take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
Commissioner Hildreth,
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
Commissioner Kling,
Yes.
and Chair Richards.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'd say one last thing to everybody here. Thank you for your comments. This is only a recommendation to the city council, so you can have another opportunity to talk with your favorite city council members.
Perfect. Any other announcements and questions, Zach?
I don't think so. We will plan on having a meeting on the 1st. So, yeah, it's going to be another pretty busy one. And yeah, So if you're not going to be there, let me know. Otherwise, that's about it. The first Thursday, first and third Thursday.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn at whatever time it is right now, 8:42.
I second the motion.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.